And then the war boss and the Chasseur commander kissed, and everyone cheered, because there was finally peace and prosperity on Armageddon. And everyone lived happily ever after. That new shampoo is really working out for me, eh? That didn't look too bad. All right. Hello, everyone. Sorry, welcome back. Welcome back to another podcast with me, Scotty B, here with the Trident podcast here. I'm here to talk to you about some very exciting stuff we got coming down the line. We specifically are going to be working and talking on some stuff about Armageddon today, specifically the fourth war for Armageddon. And I know you guys are probably immediately thinking, wait, hold up. I know the lore, I've read the fluff, I'm a big nerd. There are only 3 wars for Armageddon. So what are you talking about, fourth war for Armageddon, Scott? Did I miss something in the books or something here? And it's like, no, you didn't. But as you guys know, here at Trident, we're always looking to try out new things. We're always looking to explore new areas, both competitively and narratively. And I'm sure many of you know, we just recently, I want to say about 2 months ago, wrapped up our first narrative campaign, the Bad Ab War 2.0, in which we kind of did like an alternate universe take on the Bad Ab War, except, with kind of an updated Primaris Indomitus feel to it. That was a huge success. We had a ton of fun, and we finished that off with our Palace of Thorns event, a little RTT that we ran, and it's now been a couple months, and we have taken kind of some of the feedback that we got about Bad Ab War 2.0, and we are now looking to explore a new kind of alternate universe sort of thing with our fourth War for Armageddon campaign that we will be launching here in June. So I'm here to talk to you about that today, talk to you about some of the things that's going to go on with that, how it's going to be different from Bad Ab War 2.0, how you can get involved, what you can do, and yeah, just kind of give you the rundown. So I'm going to start by popping open my kind of work in progress Fourth War Players Pack, and we're kind of going to I'm just going to walk you through it a little bit, give you guys kind of the info, and then I'll of course be throwing out some links for you, and I'll also be including that in the video and in the podcast here, where you'll always be able to kind of click on that stuff and go see it for yourself. So hang on just one sec, and then we'll hop on into that. Okay, welcome back, everybody. So I've just hopped into our Fourth War for Armageddon Players Pack document here. It is still a little bit of a work in progress, but I figured that I would take you guys through it a little bit and do some previews and show you what we're all about. So one thing that I want to take away from the Bad Ab War 2.0 campaign was the feedback that our players were able to give us. Few things we heard about was how much you guys loved power armor, how much you hated Xenos, how much you guys loved the narrative missions, but would love to see even more narrativeness to them and less of the 10th edition mission kind of reflection in them. We talked a little bit about how you guys wanted, if there were ways that we could incorporate like players having more involvement with each other across their factions. We got a lot of love for the custom characters that we had. We were told that we would, if there was a way that we could make the campaign longer, that would be great, or deeper, so that there was more interactivity beyond, of course, your orders of battle and the missions themselves, and how the Palace of Thorns event was really cool, especially some of the most narratively driven of the missions that we did, and that like any sort of events that we could have that involved the campaign itself were awesome, and if it was possible to do more of that. Of all that stuff, we have definitely kind of adjusted things as much as we can here, put in some more stuff that we are hoping will up the narrative value of the campaign itself, but A few items kind of had to be dumbed down a little bit or limited in how we could apply them, at least to this particular campaign, but we'll get into that. So what we do have here right off the hop is, of course, a little bit of our schedule. This campaign will not, unfortunately, be longer than our Bad Ab War 1, although we'll see how things kind of flesh out towards the end, depending on our takes from our players who are involved. It is a completely open campaign. You do not have to play just armies that have been historically narratively tied to the Armageddon campaigns of the past. We are going to be opening up Fourth War to literally everybody and kind of forging our own narrative, as it were. So no matter what faction you play, you will have a space in this campaign. But it will be 5 rounds, each of which is 2 weeks. It will start, hypothetically right now, we are looking at a start date of Friday, June 21st, so that we can wrap up right at the end of the summer. And then we will go into, in early September, we will be picking a weekend in there to have an event. It'll be our Armageddon event, which the details of we're going to keep under wraps for now, but we think you guys are going to have a blast with it. The event, or the campaign itself, will have these 5 rounds, which will follow similar kind of plot to the Bad Ab War 1, where each week there will be a narrative mission, which will kind of carry us along as we kind of create the narrative of this Fourth War for Armageddon. I do really want to highlight the create the narrative aspect of this particular campaign. We are going to be providing some guidelines, and there is some stuff that as TO I will kind of be doing in the background to try to push things and kind of create and direct us a little bit. But a lot of what we're going to get out of this campaign is going to come from the players themselves, within their, not just their own force, but also within their mega factions, which we will touch on shortly here, so that we are literally creating our own story. The missions themselves, obviously, is going to come down from the TOs here. We have really taken to heart that you guys want stuff that is divorced from, say, for example, the Leviathan Players Pack or the Pariah Nexus Players Pack that'll be coming up soon here. You do want, missions of 40k, but you want very narrative stuff that is dramatically different from what you play in your regular events or your regular weekly clubs and whatnot. So that is something we will be pushing a lot. We will also be starting this campaign at a slightly smaller size with 1,500 points for our first mission. That is something that a couple of players had mentioned. Some people do, of course, like to start armies for campaigns. Because we want to keep ours fairly short, it's not really a slow grow. However, it does also add a narrative value to start with a smaller amount and grow as we go from there. How far we'll go, I don't know. I haven't really entirely decided that yet, to be honest with you. But we'll see how things progress on a narrative front, and who knows, maybe we won't be playing 2,000 points hardly at all this campaign. Maybe we'll be playing ridiculous values, both small and large. We will see how that all shakes out. Anyhow, as you can see, we just got our opening blurb here talking a little bit about stuff. Come on down. This campaign is going to be open to 32 players, at least right now, depending on how crazy things get. We may open that up a little bit more. I'm not entirely sure, but that is the goal right now. The registration is going to be $60. We will have a link for you guys to do that, to sign up for that. We are going to have a Facebook page for this. We will have a BCP page for this. The $60 does cover both your entire campaign, obviously. It also covers registration for the Armageddon event at the end of the campaign, which, as you can see here, the red text is just tentative stuff. That is tentatively going to be scheduled for Saturday, September 14th. But that date is not 100% fixed yet. That will get you into that event. It will cover your registration for it. It'll cover your lunch for that day. And obviously, like I said, that also covers your whole campaign registration and all that. On top of that, we also do have kind of some mixing up and matching that we're going to be doing midsummer with some other events. I'm not 100% sure on the details yet, but it's possible that this event or this narrative campaign may be having a second kind of crossover with another event that we're going to be running midsummer that is not otherwise related to it. And it's possible that we might be kind of hybridizing some tickets into that event for the Fourth War campaign players. So stay tuned for that. We'll see how that all shakes out. Anyhow, aside from that, the dates that we are sure about for now are, of course, our registration deadline. Unless, of course, we end up expanding the registration depending on player desires. And then, of course, when our first round will start, Friday, June 21st. Rounds, like I said before, will be 2 weeks. They will function like a lot of leagues have, where we will give you your opponent, we will give you your mission, we will fill you in on any other information that's relative to that round. You'll have 2 weeks to get together and meet with them on your own time, get your game in, and then report it back to the beta, or the not the beta board, the Fourth War campaign page, where we would like to hear from you guys, and so that we can get our results in and use that to help drive our narrative a little bit. I want to be clear, because we've had some questions about this in the past. You do not need a Facebook account to participate in these leagues. However, we do want to have a single place where we are able to keep everything together and have players be able to interact and put stuff down. For that reason, we will be having a Facebook page, a group page for this event, or for this campaign, where you guys will be expected to post stuff. If you do not have a Facebook account, that is okay. We are reachable through other means so that we can make sure that your information is still getting put down there. For the time being, we are also looking at maybe springing up a separate Fourth War for Armageddon Discord channel on the Trident Discord. That is something we'll probably also set up, but it won't be the official spot for things. So don't worry, like, not having Facebook won't necessarily block you from this campaign, but it is somewhere where we will need to be able to post your information when you guys get in contact with us. Okay, skipping into the fun stuff. We have the campaign format itself. This campaign will revolve around 4 mega factions. We are going to have an Imperial, a Destroyers, a Conquerors, and a Reavers mega faction. What you play for your army will somewhat limit where you fall on that chart. However, you do obviously, well, a lot of factions anyway, will have some kind of flex. Each of these factions will kind of, I don't want to say they work together, but they definitely will work towards similar goals. And that will be reflected in how the campaign plays out from both a narrative and a competitive standpoint. And that will have some pretty interesting effects on our Armageddon event at the end of the campaign. I need to be very clear that the players that you end up in a mega faction with are not necessarily your allies. They can be, if that is something you can work out with them. However, they're really just somebody or other players who are, like I said, working towards similar goals as you are, which, again, will reflect on some campaign-wide stuff. It also does give you certain access to certain rules within the confines of the campaign itself, and also blocks you off from other rules, and it also helps to narratively inform what your specific force is obviously looking to accomplish in this Fourth War for Armageddon. Again, I really, really want to be clear. These players aren't necessarily guaranteed to be your allies, and in fact, through the course of the campaign, depending on which mega faction you're a part of, you may in fact end up in conflict with them just as much as you end up in conflict with other players. However, one thing that we do want to encourage in this campaign, and it is going to be something we're going to have opened up to everybody, is the opportunity to make alliances with other people who are within your mega faction. This is an entirely player-driven and player-chosen opportunity. You will have the choice to make either 1-person, 2-person, 10-person, whatever, groups of alliances of people who will work towards the same goal within your mega faction if you so choose. Everybody involved must be consensual to that. They need to choose to be a part of that. They can leave that alliance at any time. For as long as you are allied with some other players within your mega faction, that will help to, or not help, but possibly hurt. It will help normalize your scores for each round. So what's going to happen is, instead of, and we'll get into scoring in a little bit here, but instead of just having your own personal score, which, you know, does somewhat contribute towards your faction total, you will instead get an alliance score where, you know, if you have a bad round or you're not able to accomplish your narrative objectives quite as much as you had hoped, but some of your allies who you've chosen to ally with do very well, you yourself will kind of get dragged along by them towards success, and vice versa. So this is a thing that can players can do to kind of either insulate or help themselves out during the course of the campaign. It is also something that they can use to help make sure that they don't bump into another player, because we will never pair you for a mission against somebody who you're in alliance with. However, like I said, you are not automatically in an alliance with somebody just because they are on your, or guys are both part of the same mega faction. As you can see, there are some mega factions that, or some regular factions that must put themselves within a certain mega faction. Aside from that, you do have your choice of mega faction. Mega factions themselves will also receive campaign scores, narrative scores throughout the course of the campaign. That is mostly to help set up our Armageddon event at the end. We will have, for this, because this is also something that we know players love and we do too, we will have an active map that we will be using of Armageddon that will have territories and whatever all kind of fleshed out on it, that will change from round to round based on the successes and failures of different mega factions. It will have different bonuses and penalties and effects that will change things from round to round based on how those factions are doing and what parts of the planet they are seeing success in. And that will all, filter down to the missions, but also to certain mega factions getting certain bonuses or penalties. That is stuff that will mostly be handled on the TO side here, because we're expecting with 32 players that it just gets way too complicated if we try to let each individual player make specific choices about where they want to go and stuff. And there are also supply line issues and stuff that we'll get into a little bit. But you guys definitely will be having a lot of narrative agency within your own writing about your force and with your own missions to tell us kind of what you foresee your army doing within the wider context of what your faction does. We will have a specific fact or a specific document coming out alongside this player's spec that gives a little bit of narrative background to help you guys make choices about where you want your particular faction to land and what you want them to be doing while they are on Armageddon. But like I said, we'll get into that a little later. In the meantime, these are your mega factions, so you can kind of maybe start thinking about this now if you're looking to sign up for the campaign. Something else I wanted to highlight here is that we are expecting that mega factions probably don't all have the exact same number of players. That is fine. The campaign scoring rules are built to expect that mega factions won't necessarily be equal. That will not necessarily block you off from being able to find success within the campaign itself, both personally or as a faction. Indeed, as far as end of campaign kind of resolutions go, both for on the story front and also on the player side, exactly who you do or do not work with can definitely affect your personal success or your faction's success. If you end up with a lot of infighting, you can see how that might actually hurt your faction. However, for the most part, we will be, working with a few levers and a few mechanics to try to make sure that just because somebody's faction is dysfunctional doesn't mean that player can't still have personal success, earning glory for their, warlord or whatever. And likewise, that, if a faction is particularly well organized or whatever, that doesn't necessarily mean that the players are automatic shoo-ins for success in everything they do. Every wonderful organization has some failures and idiots in it. The Imperium's great for that, for example, and vice versa. So that is the thing that I just want to make sure that everybody's clear with. Yes, as I said, we will have a map. Hopefully, I'm really hoping that we can demo that and start showing that to you guys at least a week or two ahead of the limit on the deadline on the sign up. If not, it should be popping out very early in the campaign. It's just kind of a nice visual thing to help with the narrative rundown inside your guys' own brain. Another note on making sure that you guys do use the page, the Facebook page. Of course, like I said, if you can't for some reason, that is fine. We will find a way to make sure that we are communicating with you. But if you are on Facebook, we really, really do want players to be interacting on the campaign page, because it's a big part of helping everybody develop narrative, is being able to have that content coming in from round to round. Additionally, like I said, we do have these dates in red right now just for the Armageddon event. We will see how it all shakes out, if that's exactly the time we're going to be working on. But at the end of the campaign, we will have that event. It will be hosted at our usual Fraternal Order of Eagles Club in St. Albert, with all the usual fixins that go with that. Like I said, the event itself, the details of which are currently under wraps, but we will get them to you later in the campaign. And a final note about attendance. Campaigns, like leagues themselves, anything that runs for more than, a single day or two, attendance and players' abilities to get games, there's always going to be some situations that arise in life. That's understandable. But more than even just a regular league, we really, really, really do want to make sure that all our players get games. We will have some ringers on hand to try to make sure that everybody gets accommodated if there are players who have to drop or players who have to miss a week or whatever. Again, we definitely understand. However, we do really want to instill in you guys that it is very important that if you're signing up for this, you are committed to participating in it. Otherwise, there's going to be other people that we're probably not going to be able to have room for, who are going to be sitting on the sidelines wishing they had a chance, and maybe you're not as interested as you thought you were. So definitely do some soul searching, think about it. From a narrative side, especially if you've already played in some narrative stuff or leagues or campaigns in 10th, you'll have way better insight than your average person about how much you actually do or don't love it. Our hope is that everybody does. We're going to do our best for that, but maybe it is or isn't for you. So just don't sign up on a whim. Make sure it's something you really want, because that's the type of players we really want in here, to make sure that everybody's getting the best experience they can. We will have our usual modeling painting guidelines. For the course of the campaign itself, we're going to be pretty loose about this stuff. For the Armageddon event, things will go back towards kind of our more traditional event style, where we would like people to be battle ready, to make sure that everything is nice and pretty. This is both for a immersion aspect and also for just a recognition towards the fact that these players have been playing with this for, by that time, 2 or 3 months. And we want to see some armies that are very presentable towards this particular narrative we're building. We will, of course, also have some awards for that type of thing. We are going to be kind of test running some new painting judging and some new painting and presentation awards with this particular campaign, which I'll get into maybe once the campaign's actually running. But I think you guys will like our new style for this kind of stuff. We do have our usual sportsmanship rules, and then we're going to start hopping into the actual Crusade rules themselves. As the same with our Bad Ab War, all of the campaign rules that you will need will be in one document, which we will give you, this Player's Pack. 10th edition narrative is a bit of a dog's breakfast as far as GW goes right now, which is too bad. They do have a lot of good stuff out there. It's just not terribly organized. We do draw inspiration from that stuff. We have access to it. We're trying to use it in the places where it makes sense. But for our own campaigns, we do have, a kind of hybrid system that we are hoping to make good use of, and has served us well so far. And hopefully that will keep working out really well for us as we go along. For scoring, this is kind of the only other real big topic that I want to cover today. We will be seeing the return of our narrative score metrics that we used in Bad Ab. However, they have been overhauled and they have been adjusted, especially within the context of the missions themselves. Obviously, we will still have not all, but some of the competitive 40k mission metrics like primary and secondary scoring available for our missions. However, we will be scoring things quite a bit differently because our missions are going to be quite a bit different as well. For the most part, you will be using this narrative score metric, which we will present to you alongside each mission, each round, that kind of you are working towards certain goals and your army has certain desires, or your faction has certain desires, and that's the kind of things that we want you doing on the tabletop, in addition to, of course, trying to blow your enemy up. Narrative score, however, will not be entirely limited to just the missions themselves. There will be, both at the start of the campaign, at the end of the campaign, and probably at least once in the middle of the campaign, some things that come from outside of the missions themselves that will contribute to your narrative score. Your narrative score, for example, there will be some narrative scoring that goes on with just your original order of battle army list that we seek to have you guys submit. Part of that will be looking just to try to see some kind of narratively built forces. Some of it will also be done up by you guys. We're looking to actively have players, both at the start of the campaign and throughout, contribute small bits of their own lore or fluff. You do not need to be a professional writer to do this. We don't need that. Even if you wanted to just submit to me like a point form little list of stuff that's kind of relevant about your force, to have you tell us about your characters or where your army comes from, or what, some big failures or successes that they've had in their career, or if they're a brand new regiment of Imperial Guard or an ancient orc warlord or whatever. Or if you want to write us a novel, all of that is fine. We are not judging you like an English class, but we are looking to have players submit fluff to us for their forces, because that is going to help us build an even cooler narrative for everybody. And maybe that kind of stuff also inspires other players within your mega faction to be like, oh, that's cool. I'm going to go talk to that guy and we're going to build ourselves a little narrative together as part of this alliance. And, everything starts to build up from there. So we will be kind of incorporating that into our original narrative scoring that we're going to be doing with your guys' orders of battle when you first submit them. And then we'll also be touching base with that a few other times throughout the campaign. However, the primary means of you guys scoring narrative score will be through the missions themselves. Like I said, they are highly custom missions, which, I don't want to spoil too much, but the narrative scores that you get through them will be the primary means by which we're kind of ranking players and factions throughout the campaign. Your narrative scores will also reflect on your faction as a whole. Again, we've got some algorithm stuff going on behind the curtains here, but the general gist is that as your faction, all the players within a certain mega faction complete their round, we'll be taking the narrative scores from their games and looking at overall how that mega faction did within a round, and then that will become reflected on our Armageddon map, which will, start to show the ups and the downs of how the war is going for certain mega factions. It gets a little bit more complicated specifically for the Reavers faction, because the Reavers faction is naturally a little bit less, I don't want to say organized, but a little less directed, I guess, than the other ones. But believe me, we put some work into building a what I hope to be a pretty good algorithm for determining how different factions are going to succeed or fail on Armageddon. And the map itself, I'm sure, will look gorgeous once you guys see it kind of move, the moving battle lines and whatnot. We do have a little bit of metric in here, just giving you a general idea of what kind of narrative score you can expect out of certain missions. You'll always be getting 1 narrative score point for winning. You'll get a couple of narrative score points based on the mission itself, which each mission can be very different from the next. And you'll also have a few narrative score points that you'll always be able to score based on your faction, because obviously, even if you are not a completely different personal faction from somebody else who is, say, a destroyer, you guys are both actively looking to destroy Armageddon, and so there are things that you guys may do the same, even if you are very different. At the end of the faction, or end of the campaign, there will be some scoring going on, some rankings. I'm probably going to see if I can't find a good way to host active rankings for you guys, so that you guys can kind of not just see the map, but also see some numbers if you guys are into that. You guys can track your personal progress as well. And of course, we will have orders of battle that are being updated all the time. So there'll be lots and lots of spreadsheets and bookkeeping and all that stuff for people who love it going on throughout the campaign. The Armageddon event itself at the end is the be-all to end-all of how this campaign actually ends, though. Everything we do in the campaign will adjust and inform how we structure the Armageddon event, but the Armageddon event itself is the thing that will actually determine who wins the campaign from a faction standpoint. And we're very thrilled to be able to host something cool like that. So if you're thinking about signing up for this event, I really cannot encourage you enough to make sure that you book out the time for the Armageddon event. I know I just have already told you that the date's not fixed, but it should be fixed very soon, and we'll make sure you guys have it, because it is going to be a super cool thing for us to all do together with you guys whenever that date ends up being. like I said, I think Saturday, September 14th, though. We'll shake out from there. After that, we do get into actually some of the more, up and down regular Crusade rules. A lot of them will follow the same guidelines we used for the Tabletop War. There have been quite a few changes just on the rules front. I have tried to kind of thin down the rules a little bit, tried to streamline the experience curve a little bit for everybody, just because the nature of narrative campaigns, for anybody who's played them anywhere before, is things can get pretty wonky towards the end when there's so many different upgrades and power-ups and other things to remember on top of a game like 40k, which is already pretty complicated. Nonetheless, we do still want to leave you guys lots of toys to play with, lots of avenues to chase. So a lot of that stuff is, a lot of the same mechanics are still in there, even as they've maybe been thinned out a little bit. If you are not familiar with our Bad Ab War pack, that's fine. I'm just going to really quickly kind of sum up some stuff here. And then once this pack launches, which actually it should be out pretty much right around the same time this video is, you can come and do a deeper dive through this as at your leisure. The long and short of it is that you will need to make an order of battle. An order of battle is a lot like an army list, but it kind of adjusts and changes through the campaign. The order of battle will naturally include more things, more points than you might actually use in a game. So it's kind of like an expanded army list. And the way it will work is that the units that are on it are fixed. So you'll, take a unit off your order of battle and plug it into the army list that you're going to play a game with. That unit will, have all sorts of things happen to it. Maybe it gets blown up. Maybe it does a whole lot of blowing up. It will gain some experience. It may gain some battle scars, and that will get, reflected onto its specific order of battle unit card. And that unit will then, change for the rest of the campaign. As your army goes along, or you go from one round to the next, your units are going to get more and more grizzled, more and more beat up, and you do have numerous tools within this campaign back to kind of change them and adjust them. But the long and short of it is that that order of battle will be the forces that you get to use in your different games. Your order of battle itself does have a points limit. It's going to start at 1750. It will go up automatically each round by a fixed amount, which we will of course inform you with, and then you can add more units, new units, to your order of battle. You can utilize some of the tools we have in this player's pack to change a unit that is already on your order of battle in certain circumstances, but for the most part, once you put a unit on your order of battle, that unit is relatively fixed outside of the experience that they gain and the battle scars or battle honors that they might acquire. So like you wouldn't normally expect, say, a unit on there to play through one or two games or whatever, and then suddenly you decide to make it a 6-man unit instead of a 3-man unit, or you entirely decide to swap out a bunch of weapons on it. That unit will probably stay the way that it is for the most part, at least as far as like war gear and numbers go, to reflect the fact that this is your force that is active in an actual war zone, and it actually has to, make its way kind of on its own. It's not necessarily resupplying with whatever battle barge all the time. Maybe the fluff for your army does allow you to do that, and that means that you might be using those requisitions to actually change your units a little more than other people will, but it will cost you some of the resources that you gain through the course of the campaign that of course other people will be able to spend on other things. That also gets a little bit into the kind of some of the fun tools that the different mega factions will have, which I'm not going to cover today because this pack is very long, but it is stuff that you guys can explore in the pack yourself. We are encouraging people to build forces that are relatively reflective of like an actual, I don't want to call it a war band, because that may be, depending on exactly what faction you're playing, a completely inappropriate term, but the idea is that you have a force which has a narrative feel to it that is independently operating within the war zone of the Fourth War for Armageddon. So you probably can go back and pause this video, but I know earlier when we were looking at some of the narrative score stuff, you see I do make this allusion here to the fact that you can make in 40k an all vehicle army list, for example. It's not particularly narrative that you would be playing that within this campaign though. The reason being, of course, like an all vehicle army is something that maybe gets deployed as part of a really much wider engagement under command of whatever warlord or imperial commander or whatever. It's probably not something that's operating by itself in the jungle for weeks at a time, because it's incredibly vulnerable to being ambushed and destroyed by opponents who, are able to engage an artillery line that is undefended, for example. The force you are looking to make needs to be something that can move around on the planet, that is independently operating. And that's something that we're looking for you when we're judging the narrative scores of your particular army. Of course, at the same time, we are asking for fluff from you guys. We are asking for you guys to write your own lore. If you send some stuff to us that is like, wow, this guy's got an amazing narrative to his particular army, cool, let's run with it. That's awesome. And I'm not really looking to put a constraint on what you guys should or shouldn't have. I'm just trying to give you an idea here of what we're expecting from the orders of battle, at least the starting ones that we're going to see. Anyhow, you will need to build this order of battle, and it will expand throughout the campaign. We do have the rules in here for how you do that and all the numbers and stuff. You will also acquire resources like requisition, which you'll then be able to spend on various fun little toys that you can get, which, like I said, I'm not going to quite cover right now. And then, of course, your units themselves will also get cool relics and battle honors and, like I said, battle scars as they show up, that will, in some ways, fundamentally change how you use them, especially in light of the fact that the missions that we're going to be playing are not competitive 40k missions as you guys are used to them. Anyhow, so your force will grow and change over the course of this. I am extremely hopeful that we have, a fair number of people who have the mindset to try to write their own narrative for this force they are building, and that is reflected on the tabletop in the units that they use, and hopefully in the missions that we give you to play are going to be helpful towards you, accomplishing that dream of having this really cool narrative force. And like I said, we will have a pack out soon to kind of give you some narrative baselines to work with as far as the Fourth War for Armageddon is going to play out. And then we'll kind of hopefully have ourselves a good time for a couple of months. Couple other things that we want to touch on just before we wrap this up. We do, of course, have the Trident Wargaming Podcast Gmail that you can hit us up for any questions anytime. Of course, many of you also see me or Bill Bonko or whoever in public. You can always harass us for any more information you want about this. We will be at Gamescom with our own Trident booth on the weekend of June, what is that? 15th, 16th, I think? Yeah, June 15th, 16th. The deadline for sign up for the Fourth War campaign is June 16th. So if you're at Gamescom or you want to go drop by, we will be there, and you can come hang out in a super cool narrative setting, because Gamescom will be hosting its own big 40k narrative event, and you can pick our brains there about it if you're interested. Maybe we'll get you signed up right then and there. Who knows? But that is also a great spot for you guys to come see us. Going into the summer, we also want to touch on the fact that we do have, we actively try to not have too much going on in the summer, because we know that a lot of people are away and everybody's enjoying their vacations. But we do have some midsummer events that we're going to be running alongside this narrative campaign. One of them on August 3rd is our AOS Genesis event. That is going to be our very first Age of Sigmar event in AOS 4th edition, because I think those rules are dropping basically right now. Just every week we're getting new teasers. So that's going to be our brand new very first 4th edition AOS event. And then the next day, on August 4th, we will be doing our 40k Double or Nothing event, which is a doubles RTT, which, as I alluded to earlier, may, if I can make the logistics of it work, have some tie-in to our Fourth War for Armageddon that we're working on right now here with the campaign. Finally, as we reach to the end of the summer, we will be pulling up and having not only our, obviously, Armageddon event sometime in mid-September, but far more importantly, on September 6th, 7th, and 8th at Taps Gaming, we will be helping to run the 40 Hours of 40K event that we had a tremendous amount of success and fun with last year. So stay tuned for some more information on that, because we've got some packs coming out real soon. I'm not 100% positive. I'm pretty sure they're actually already got tickets available, but if there's any information for you guys, I will make sure it is listed in the blurb below this video or below this podcast, wherever you're listening to us. So that should get us kind of caught up until the end of September, until the end of this campaign. Okay, and that should wrap us up for now. So thanks for coming out, guys, and listening and or watching my little blurb here on the start of our 4th War for Armageddon campaign. As always, we want to thank our current patrons, Frederick, Dustin, Chris, and Tyler. You guys are absolute superstars for supporting us with the Patreon. And also for all of you guys who are hopefully looking to sign up for this campaign. I know we had such a wonderful time with our Bad Ab War 1, and it being something that we had never done before, and something that was new and kind of dangerous for us to try out, as it's kind of new ground for us. But things turned out so well, and you guys were just so supportive and so positive about everything. And have also been able to give us such great feedback that we're hoping to use to make this campaign even better as kind of a summer distraction for us all. So if you're interested, awesome, get on the sign up, have that signed up and ready to go for you, and start working on your order of battle and some narrative for your force, because I can't wait to start reading through this stuff. And I guess we'll catch you guys all in our next one. Take care.
Did you plug the Patreon? We need to plug the Patreon.